Looking for real stories that lift you up? Welcome to Inspire and Impact, the podcast where purpose meets perseverance. This is where transformation begins and your story continues.
Welcome to the Inspire and Impact podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Rosenstein. The show features real conversations with thought leaders, healers, entrepreneurs, and creatives who share their journeys of growth, purpose, and making meaningful impact. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Meryl Hayton. Meryl, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today with the audience?
Sure. I'll go back until about the age of 19. I was working in corporate America and I was going to college at night because my family had a very business-minded, accounting, CPA. My father was a CPA, kind of a background. So I was kind of pushed into doing that for a job. And I was working in accounting at the time and going to school for business administration, but I really wasn't feeling it. And I came home one day and I told my mom that I got my deposit back from college and I was going to go to cosmetology school. And she said, "What white Jewish girl is going to make money doing nails?" Because that's what I wanted to do. And from when I was about 9 years old, so for 10 years, I was already painting, being creative. I liked to do arts and crafts. I was always playing with my nails and things. So I was already really into it, really interested in it. And so I did. So I left college, went to cosmetology school. I got my manicuring license. And by 21, I was already working part-time for myself, still while holding the corporate job. And then by 25, I had left the corporate job and was working for myself full-time. And I had a small nail studio for about 30 years. And it was a great business. But I realized over time, because I was always a seeker for my own self-development and wanting to feel really good about myself, really happy on the inside and really confident, that it led me to realize that being in the beauty business was all about how you look on the outside. And I was brought up to think that as long as I looked good on the outside, people would like me. And I didn't want to have that. I didn't want to be in that pattern anymore. I wanted to just feel it on the inside and know that it didn't matter necessarily what kind of clothes I wore or if I had makeup on or not, or if my nails were done or not. So, my nails are still done, but so I'll say that's important to me still. But so I kind of felt like I didn't want to be in the beauty business anymore. And my focus started to be connecting more to spirit and listening more to my intuition. And the messages just kept telling me to practice more yoga, do things that really helped me to feel more secure on my own. And it led me eventually down a path to become a yoga teacher. And then I realized I could help people to feel better in their bodies while also fueling them and fueling their soul with feeling enough, self-acceptance, self-love. And because those were the things that I wanted to do for myself. And then eventually I did another yoga teacher training, and then I started getting certifications in mind-body medicine, and I learned EFT tapping. So that is physically tapping on your meridian points, similar to acupuncture. And it really helps to dismantle your emotional attachment to whatever you're feeling, because EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. So now I am an emotional freedom and trauma healing specialist because I love to help people get to the root cause of why they don't feel enough or why they don't prioritize themselves above others and why they feel unworthy or like they're a bad person or like they did something wrong. And all of my own seeking and all of my own training just led me down this path. And then eventually I closed my nail salon, and it took a few years of doing my own deep healing. And while I love yoga and I loved, like, I felt talk therapy helped a little bit, and I like sound healing and Reiki and lots of different energy healing modalities, nothing helped me get to the root cause of my problems until I found EFT tapping. So I eventually got certified in all the levels of EFT, like 1, 2, and 3. I'm accredited and certified through EFT International. And then I did extensive training in using EFT and an upgraded energy healing form that's like a guided meditation. It's called optimal EFT. So I marry all of that together with intuitive guidance and law of attraction. And I ended up creating my own unique method called the emotional clearing method. And it's a 5-step method. If you take the word clear from emotional clearing and you create an acronym with it, it's clarity of where you're at and where you're going. It's letting go. It's empowering you, activating within you what you need in order to keep moving forward, and then reinforcing all of that. So I found that I had these 5 steps and this process, and I was using it with clients as I was getting certified and building my practice and honing in on my niche and everything. And so I eventually kind of gave it a name, and now that's the foundation of the work that I use with my private clients. I teach it as a workshop. I just led a retreat last weekend up in the Catskills and used it in coaching sessions throughout the whole weekend. So it can be used in many different ways. And like I said, it's really helped me continue to get to the root cause of all my stuff and rewire the patterns and reframe your thoughts and stories, and has brought me and my clients just profound healing. So that's a little bit of my story in a nutshell.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing about that. It sounds pretty spectacular that one day you're working with nails and the next thing you're leading retreats, helping people with traumas, totally two different worlds. Was there like a breaking point or a spiritual awakening that made you realize you need to change your life path?
At about the 15 or so year mark of my 30 years of doing nails, I was really burnt out. All of the years of sitting and not really prioritizing my own self-care needs, of taking a break, taking time for lunch, like really scheduling that into my working schedule. And once I became a yoga teacher, I started to cut down a little bit in the salon. And then I realized how much better I started to feel standing more, and all the leaning over and the repetitive motion from all the filing and everything really took a toll on my body. And sometimes I can still, if I use my wrist too much in a funky way, like I can still get a little tendonitis in my right wrist from holding it in one position all day long for 30 years. For anyone out there who's listening to this, make sure that you take breaks. If you're in that kind of an industry, it's so important for you to recharge your body, refuel your body. Because for many years, I would work in the salon all day, and then I would go to the gym and do crazy workouts, lifting heavy weights, doing step aerobics, everything was like high intensity. And what I really needed was stuff to calm things down, right? Calm my mind down, calm my nervous system down, calm my body down. So it took like many years for me to figure that out. But so, yeah, so really feeling burnt out and then becoming a yoga teacher and knowing how I could help people to feel better in yoga. And with the way that I ran my nail business, I had most of my following, 90% of my following were repeat long-term clients. So I developed deep relationships with these people, and I just always love having deep conversations and helping people. So I was a little bit like a therapist. And I think it just comes naturally to me to want to help people and get into their psyche. And I just, I knew I wanted to be some kind of a coach. I didn't know what that looked like, But when I closed my salon in 2018, I took home about 15 of my clients who wanted to continue to follow me. And I thought, oh, in 3 months, I'm going to have a full-time following in the coaching world, which was not the case at all. But exactly a month after I made that switch, and I thought I was going to have these people following me for a steady income, I fell and I fractured my wrist actually in 3 places. So I couldn't work. And that was the end. That was the universe's 500th message or whatever to tell me to stop, Meryl, move on. They were like pushing me off the ledge. And then I did an online coaching program with a coach and hired all the marketing coaches and the business coaches and the mindset coaches and the law of attraction coaches and all the things over the years. And while I was doing my certifications in EFT tapping, I had to do a lot of my own work in order to get certified and accredited. And it was really an incredible journey.
Wow, that sounds like really amazing. That I mean, from like your story, it seemed you were successful right away in the nail salon business. But
Mhm.
then, like, it took some time to build that coaching practice. Was it like a really big mindset shift to make that because you were already an entrepreneur, business owner? You were creating a
Oh, yeah.
totally separate business.
Totally separate. For nails, I had a high-end little nail studio. And because 90% of my following were repeat clients, I didn't really have to do any marketing. And I lived in the area where I worked for most of my life. And then, like I said, and I knew a lot of people from having the salon and then teaching yoga and just living up in that area. But I needed, like I said, I needed to do my own healing work in order to be able to hold space for people. And what did you just ask me about?
Switching to a whole new
Oh,
business.
yes, yes, yes. Okay. So when I was in my nail salon, I would say I felt so secure because I had this constant following. And then learning how to have that same confidence in a coaching business was a completely different level of confidence because I feel that, like, being in the coaching world, you've got to be authentic and vulnerable about your own stuff. And I didn't necessarily have to share that in the salon. I mean, we did. I had close relationships with lots of my clients, but that was like one on one. And we built relationships over time. In this world, in the coaching world, there's a million people out there doing similar things. So you've got to figure out how to stand out and continue to market yourself and continue to share. And it's a whole different whole game, really, than having a brick and mortar where your sign is up and people see you and, oh, I know that person. It's this much smaller world. And this coaching world is a much bigger world and filled with so many people, like I said, doing the same thing. So not as easy.
So before you talked about being like trauma informed, how has your personal experience like with trauma helped you better serve your clients?
So my trauma growing up was really receiving lots of criticism, mostly from my mother. And I felt like I grew up, like I remember when I first started my certifications in EFT tapping. And I said, oh, I've done therapy. I understand where I came from and understand my past. And I've been doing this tapping thing and I get it. And it's going to be so easy. And then when I was actually doing my training, I realized that a lot of the situations from my past where they still had a charge, they still had an intense charge to them where I still felt hurt, or I still felt angry, and I needed to continue to work on them. And I find that so common with my clients. They're smart people, they're logical people, and they keep trying to use their brain in order to feel better. But you've got to connect You've got to connect your thoughts and your situations to your nervous system, which is in your body. And I didn't really understand that until I started to get certified and really learn more about EFT tapping. Learning to rewire all of the times that I felt like I wasn't good enough, and all of the times that I felt like I wasn't supported the way that I needed to be growing up, or the times when I made bad decisions for myself and dated the wrong people, and when I had to heal being hard on myself, had to heal criticizing myself, had to heal the ways I felt like I made wrong decisions, right? So that's how I've used it for myself. And it just seems that the women who tend to come to me want to heal from toxic relationships. They want to heal from their mental, and it can be physical and narcissistic type of abuse, because it's all the same feelings. Even though their experiences and the details might be different than mine, it's still the same feelings of not feeling enough, being disrespected or misunderstood, and being rejected, abandoned, ignored, things like that.
So what does like emotional freedom mean to you?
Emotional freedom means to me that there's just inner peace in my mind. I'm not worried about what other people are thinking about me. And if I make a mistake, I know I did enough. I know I am enough. And I can easily move through feeling criticized. And I'm my own cheerleader, right? I've learned how to be my own cheerleader. So I'm not sabotaging myself in a way, right? From someone else maybe criticizing me. And just feeling really confident no matter what's happening outside of me.
Well, as a life coach and energy healer myself, I practiced EFT many times, and you are right, it has helped me as well. I honestly haven't heard of optimal EFT before. Can you maybe explain a little bit what's the difference between EFT and
Mhm.
optimal EFT?
Yeah. So optimal EFT is connecting to your source within and a higher power. So some people feel like their higher power is completely separate from them. Some people feel that it's totally within them. And some people, like me, I feel it's both. I feel there is a higher power and there is this higher source within me. So in order to connect to that, we connect to a loving, happy moment. And then I guide people through an intuitive guided meditation. And it's very powerful. And we don't do any physical tapping, but I ask them the same kinds of questions and lead them through sessions the same way I would using EFT tapping. So, for example, if someone has fear to speak up in a relationship, we'll say, because they don't want to be rejected or yelled at, we would do, and they say, and my fear is at an 8. Okay, well, that's pretty high. And we would do some physical EFT tapping to set up the statement. Even though I have all this fear, I don't want to speak up because I fear being judged or yelled at. I'm choosing to acknowledge how I feel. You say it 3 times similarly and tap it on the side of the hand so that your subconscious knows exactly what you're working on. And then you go through all the points, right? All this fear, and you go through the basic recipe points, repeating that, all this fear, all this fear. And you want to lower the intensity a little bit. And I'll keep asking questions to people, to my clients, to help them to get underneath the current fear and where it started. And usually it brings them back to a time when in their past, something similar happened. They were judged or they were yelled at, and their nervous system gets triggered in this relationship where they fear speaking up. We can then, once the intensity is lowered to about halfway, so they're at a 4, then we can go into the meditative form of it. And I'll bring them into a guided meditation. There's many, many, many different ways. Sometimes I have new ideas that intuitively drop in on how to guide them through a session, but it could be just bringing in like heart chakra, green loving energy, and surrounding the situation or the person, them and the person that they're having this conflict with, and bringing in love to the situation. And then incredible reframes happen and incredible rewrites to stories and rewiring their nervous system. And all of it really happens through using both. So I'm constantly, oh, we need to do tapping now. Oh, we need to do the optimal now. Oh, let's do a meditation now. Oh, no, we got to go back to using tapping. And I just intuitively go back and forth with using both and marrying that with practical coaching, affirmations, law of attraction, like all of that together. So it's very, very powerful. I mean, in my continuing education world of all of the other practitioners who use optimal EFT, I have heard practitioners helping people to cure cancer, helping people to bring back their sight. I mean, not managing, but regulating their hormones. And I mean, all that's just so incredible. And the continuing education that I do with my mentors, they really bring in, like my mentor was a doctor for 30 years and she left that field to only practice this work. And she does both, right? She marries regular traditional tapping and the optimal together. So I did my trauma training with her using EFT tapping and optimal EFT. And it's just really so incredible what happens. And every time I'm in a session with someone, every time I'm fascinated by it. I'm amazed by it because I'm just the intuitive guide and I don't know exactly what's going to happen with my client, but I just have the vision. I think like we all do as coaches, like you have the vision of helping people to see beyond their limitations. And I just believe so much in that. And then it just happens. So it just happens. And it really helps people to bring in love and acceptance to the situations that have happened and giving them like a completely new perspective on what's happened to them.
You maybe share like any powerful transformational stories that one of your clients had?
Yes, I was actually going to go right into one, but I thought I'd pause for a moment to see if you had a question. So one, I mean, there's many that come to mind, but one is I had a client come to me because she broke up with her boyfriend and he committed suicide within a week. And the guilt that she felt was incredible and rightly, but she also had incredible amounts of terror to go out, terror to run into his family, terror to run to see any of her friends, even to talk about it. There was just incredible amounts of terror. It kept her from doing her own work. And after 2 sessions, so she's also loves to write. So after 2 sessions, she started writing again and submitted some of her writing into a contest. And by the 4th or 5th session, we had completely removed any emotional intensity from that trauma. And she applied for some regular paying jobs for writing. She published a journal for writing. And then we were able to, because people typically buy into a long-term program with me and it's not just single sessions. So they really have a container that's this safe and supportive containers, and they have access to me in between their appointments because I want to know exactly what they're going through and what triggers them and their thought patterns and really get into their psyche. So through all of that, then we were able to go into her past on lots of other experiences that were traumatic to her. And we really, by the end, after 3 months, she was like, I've never felt so exceptional and so confident in my life ever. So it's just truly amazing what's possible. And I always say, like, you show up 100%, you get 100% results. I think
That's
that's
an amazing story. I mean, thank you so much for sharing about that. I know, like you also mentioned, like sometimes you do surrogate tapping. You explain to like, the audience what exactly does that mean to do surrogate tapping,
yeah.
and is it really possible to work with somebody like remotely when they're not in the same room as you?
Oh, absolutely. I'll share two stories. One is my own personal story. I had COVID a few years ago and I felt awful when I was like sick on the couch for a few days. And I said, oh, I should get a tapping session with someone. So I reached out to my community and this woman was in London. So we did a Zoom call. And I remember I said, I can't even tap. I don't have the energy. I don't feel well. My back was killing me. Said, I can't tap. She says, that's okay. I'll tap for you. And I told her how I was feeling. So she just tapped on herself, right? Like she was me, even though I'm feeling terrible or whatever we said and whatever the intensity was. And we tied it into the physical symptoms that I was having. After 20 minutes, I was sitting up on the couch tapping with her. So that just goes to show that we are really all one and connected energetically, right? I mean, that's really amazing that I experienced it myself. And then from that moment on, that was almost 4 years ago. So that from that moment on, I was like, oh, I'm definitely doing surrogate work for people. So a client came to me with incredible amounts of anger, hurt, sadness, and resentment with a lot of familial problems with her siblings, with her kids, and her parents. So we also worked together for a few months. And there were many times where she said, oh man, my daughter needs this work. And her daughter was in her early 20s and did not live at home, just to set the stage for that. And I said, well, we need to get you to be a clearer channel first before we can do any surrogate work with your daughter. So we did that. We worked on her, like I said, frustration, resentment, anger, hurt, all the situations that were really keeping her up at night. When she would wake up in the morning, she would dread getting up and she was just had incredible amounts of anxiety and overthinking about it. And we worked on clearing all of that. And then I said, now you can be a channel for your daughter. So I said, I feel like your daughter is extremely insecure from what you tell me, even though she never used those words. My client never said that about her daughter. She just said, my daughter is entitled, she's spoiled, and whenever anything goes wrong, she blames me, who was the mother and the father. And she said, and it's not, we don't deserve that. Like she felt like completely disrespected. And she said, and I don't, and it had been going on for over a year. And she said, my daughter's coming this weekend and I really don't want to see her. I'm afraid to see her. She just really felt like she didn't like her daughter. So we did this 15-minute, just turned out to be 15 minutes. Not that I planned it that way, tapping session on her insecurities. And I said, and I always record my sessions so that my clients can go back to them and repeat tappings or meditations if I feel it necessary. So I said, I want you to practice this like 2 more times before she comes. And I remember on Friday, she texted me and said, I'm really nervous about this weekend. I said, I'm telling you, she's going to be different. It's going to be fine. It's going to be better than you expect. Might not be perfect, but it is going to be better than you expect. I said, do the tapping session again and tap on your own worry or fear about what may happen. And she did. And then her daughter came the next day and she was different. She said some of the same things that would normally happen where her daughter would get triggered and act spoiled or blame them. She said it happened, but it wasn't as bad. And she started apologizing and she started realizing that she was being irrational. And it never reverted back to what she was. It kind of kept on morphing a little bit, like a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I mean, I don't see that client anymore, so I don't know exactly what's happening, but I would say 6 to 8 months after we stopped working together, we would still keep in touch and message, and I would say, how you doing? What's going on? And she said, oh, things are still really good. So that's amazing.
That really is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those interesting stories. I know a lot of the work you do is also you work with the inner child.
Yep.
Are there any signs when they're like the inner child is either running the show or causing problems in somebody's life?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Usually when you're in, I'll bring it back right to the daughter being that entitled, insecure, blaming. Like when you're in that place of blaming, or you're trying to like fight back or control a situation, or you feel really hurt, or you might self criticize. Those are all ways that your inner child is running the show. And it's because at some point in your life, you didn't get the support that you actually needed. You were not feeling seen, you were not feeling heard, you were feeling like left out or abandoned in some way or unsafe. Maybe your upbringing was like an unsafe upbringing. Maybe there was alcohol or drugs or parents that weren't really around. And it made you not trust people or made you not trust life. So there's so many ways that it shows up. Yeah.
I mean, now that you've worked with a lot of people, have you seen any common themes with a lot of the women that you worked with in terms of like their blocks or issues? Is there like particular like beliefs that like keep coming up or emotions?
Yeah. It's all, I'm not good enough. It's all similar to that, right? So I believe that we have one main negative core belief. And all of the stuff that triggers us brings us really back down to that little detail. It's not a little detail, I shouldn't say, but that one detail. So if you think of a table with legs as a metaphor, right? The top of the table is your negative core belief of I'm not good enough. And the legs of the table are all the times when someone made me feel not good enough, right? My mom criticized me. My dad was too controlling. People bullied me in school. My teacher told me that I was a terrible student or I failed a test or all these things that keep pushing us down, pushing us down, and pushing us down, making us feel like we're not good enough. So if you can remove the emotional intensities and rewire those thoughts and reframe those stories and change your perspectives about them, then you break the legs of the table and your negative core belief collapses, right? So throughout everyone's self-development journey, right, we're all at a different place, of course, in it, you will come to that place. And all of my clients feel some sort of, I'm not good enough, right? I don't matter. I don't belong, something along those lines. But yeah, absolutely. And they all overthink too much, right? And they all have the same physical sensations. It's tightness in the chest, it's tightness or pressure or some swirling of energy, maybe in the solar plexus, this is your power center. For the people who don't know who are listening, right? This is your energetic power center in the chakra system. So a lot of my clients feel it in this spot right here. And then tightness in the chest or a heavy pressure, right? All this responsibility, right? It might feel like heavy pressure on their shoulders or pressure in their head, like a headache or a migraine, and lots of tension, digestive issues, sleepless nights, sweats, chills, heart palpitations. All those things are stress responses connected to things from your past. So we tie in the fear, the worry, the doubt, the unworthiness, all of that with those feelings. And that's what helps things shift very quickly.
Oh, it's really interesting. I always learn new things every time I do the show. So one of my favorite parts of doing the podcasting. You would explain like how do like ancestral patterns like affect people without even them realizing?
Well, I think for me, my I'm not good enough negative core belief, I don't believe that just was born into my physical life. I believe it's from my mother. I think she felt it. I think her mother felt it. I really feel like it's a ancestral pattern. So you can, so I feel like with people who do an incredible amounts of work and they still might struggle with some patterns, that they're usually familial type patterns, like fear around money or lack of money or losing money. That could be something from depression times from their grandparents or something, or maybe they grew up really poor. Maybe their grandparents grew up poor and they were very frugal with money. And then and then they give birth to their daughter and the daughter still feels that way. And the pattern just keeps on going and going through the DNA. So it's very interesting. And you can absolutely change it so that you're not carrying it forward for your own children.
What role does the nervous system play in a healing emotional trauma?
What role?
Yeah.
What role does the nervous system play in healing trauma?
Yeah.
Well, I'll just go back to what I was explaining before. Every situation that we've experienced in our lives, good and bad, there's like a recorded emotion that stays in our body. And we want to keep the good ones, of course, but the negative ones, we want to get up and out. And that's why EFT is so profoundly effective, because it is proven to heal PTSD and trauma. So it helps you to find where it is. So if one of my clients has this tight fear in their chest, usually growing up, they had some experience that made them feel like that, right? That's like a shock to their system in some way. Or if they are someone who has maybe a lot of anxiety, like anxious fear or a lot of nervousness, maybe your shoulders are always like kind of hiked up a little bit. So there's always lots of tension or tightness like in the shoulders and the neck area. And it's hard for them to relax. It's because their nervous system is still firing from the same traumas that happened when they were younger. And that's why this work is so effective, because it's tying the thoughts and the nervous system stress responses together to find where it really is stored in the body so that you can get rid of it for good. So I just want to say one other thing. It's your negative emotion from an experience from your past gets stored like a trauma capsule in the body somewhere, right? It could be in your foot, it could be in your knee, it could be in your leg. And what I've learned from this great book that's like my Bible, this official EFT from A to Z, this is written by my mentor, who was the doctor for 30 years, who only practices EFT and optimal EFT. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? And she talks about how our emotions are connected to our physical symptoms, right? And my way of using that is to regulate your nervous system. So I really deal with the stress responses, but she's really dealing with the cancer and the hormone regulating the hormones. I mean, because being a medical doctor, she really has that background. But it's fascinating, really so fascinating how things can get stuck and stored. And one of the things, this is what I wanted to remember. One of the things that I learned from her is that anything that's bone or muscular, like soft tissue related, is how you value yourself. So if you have a chronic negative core belief and chronic self-criticism, it will impact your soft tissue, your tendons, your muscles, your bones, ligaments, and things like that. So that it's very interesting to tie that together in my sessions with people who might have low back pain that brings in another example. I did a 20-minute mini session for a woman at an event. And she sat down limping into her chair. And she said, "Oh, I have like horrendous sciatica pain." I said, "Okay, well, what's going on this weekend?" And she says, "Oh, I have a lot of fear because my husband's away and I don't like to stay home by myself." But all right, even though I have all this fear in my left hip, right, and it's giving me this pinching, awful sciatic pain, we go right into exactly what the details are and what the truth is for every person. It's got to be exact. And that's when you have incredible shifts. And after 20 minutes, she got up and went, "I don't have any pain." And she said, "And I'm happy to go home by myself and for the rest of the weekend." So now I don't know what happened after that, but If that's what is possible, then you can create that as a permanent result. That's what that shows me.
It's amazing you have all these stories about helping people. It's a testament to show how powerful EFT really works.
Yeah.
I know thousands of people use EFT. A lot of people have incredible stories to share about that. I wanted to ask you, because before you also talked a lot about use your intuition a lot. Will you share with us like a time, like in a session where your intuition helped you with a breakthrough with a client? Was there a time like you were stuck or something and then your intuition gave you some guidance of what to do that really helped in the session that like you didn't have that intuition and when kind of the same results?
Well, something that's like a major story, because it happens so consistently throughout my sessions. It's hard to pinpoint like a major story. One of my clients, she just wrote a testimonial from coming to my retreat. We had worked together for many years on and off, and she came to my retreat last weekend and she gave me a testimonial and she said, when Meryl tells you that she's getting a download or she got a download, that means she sees right through you. So I know, like, when my clients are like, I'm not sure how I feel, or I don't really know what it's, how do I say this? Yeah, it's like when they're really just kind of trying to get to the root of how they feel, I already know how they feel. And every time I say, okay, you tell me that you're feeling this fear, for example. And what number do you think that it's at? And I'm always like testing myself. And I go, she's going to say an 8. And 95% of the time, I'm right. And when the numbers come down, like I can watch people as we're tapping, I see their energy kind of calm down. And I can see, oh, they're at a 6 or they're at a 4 now or something. Like I can see where they're at. And that I'm usually right about that too. And I laugh at it sometimes because sometimes I'm like under the table, I'm like holding up, she's going to say 4, right? And then she says it and I go, I'm right. So it's just play this little game with myself sometimes. But a lot of it really is, I don't know. So for example, stuff is coming in as we're talking about this a little bit. When my client has an issue with someone from their past, say their mother, I don't know any of the details necessarily about their mother's past or upbringing, but they're telling me a story about what happened with the two of them in this physical world. And we'll go into tapping on it and then we'll go into a meditation and I just get these downloads of exactly what the mother was experiencing growing up. And then they'll say, how did you know that? You're right. I don't know. It's just happened. I just share from what comes in. And then there's times when I say, we're going to do a meditation. And I think here, I'll say this, like sometimes we're tapping and sometimes I say, I think we need to tap a little bit more. And then my intuition goes, nope, you need to go do a meditation. I say, oh, I'm being called to do a meditation. We're going to do that instead. And it ends up working even better than I think. And then some other times, I don't know how I'm going to guide them through a meditation. And then the download comes in of, you need to do the one that's walking over the bridge, or you need to do the one that you're sitting on a cloud, or you need to do the one that's more practical where they're in a room with the other person. And so I do get downloads that way. So that's really how I use it in my business. I hope was clear for you.
Yeah, I mean, and it sounds really amazing because, like, from what you're saying, like you're using your intuition all the time. Because all the people I spoke with, it's once in a blue moon they'll get like some type of intuitive guidance or download. But you're saying you get it all the time, which is
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, very few people have that ability or skill.
Yeah. I mean, and that's more I would say I'm better at it one-on-one. Like I had 16 people that I was leading through a retreat. So if I was doing that one-on-one with some people during the retreat, I was able to do that. But, so I'm still learning how to continue to expand that for myself so I can do it and hold the capacity for more of that.
What do you believe so many women struggle with self-worth issues, perfectionism, or even fear of being seen?
I mean, I think that goes back like so many generations of the male figure is the one who is the power figure in the home. And I just think it stems from there. And I feel that because self-development has become so huge because people in the last, say, 50 years maybe, have really started to look at themselves and realize that they are deserving and worthy of more. And I think that because of that, it's pushed more people like me, say, for example, to want to do it.
So what empowering truth or what advice could you give to women that may be feeling stuck or feeling not good enough, like that may be listening to this? Is there any advice you could be giving them?
Well, one simple thing is that you always have a choice. So you can choose to stay stuck and you can choose because staying stuck is a choice. Staying in I'm not enough is a choice. And you really do have a choice to think something differently, but you're automatically protecting yourself by staying in those comfort patterns. But what I want you to know is that you absolutely can change it permanently for good.
Do you have any favorite either daily rituals or techniques do you practice for your self-care you maybe like to share with the audience?
Yes, I do. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't look at my phone and until I do my reflection practice. So I feed the cat, do my bathroom ritual, and then I sit down with my journal. And sometimes I just journal my thoughts out if I need to get some stuff out. And then I go, oh, maybe that thing is kind of sticky to me. I'll do some tapping on that, or I might do a short meditation. And then I journal what I'm grateful for, like a few things. I journal what I'm celebrating at the end of every day, like it's already happened. And I journal a future date. So I'm at the end of September right now. And I just say, like, my dream luxury life. I mean, I really journal and really dream big in that. And how I feel about life and what I'm surrounded by or what I'm generating in my business or whatever I put down. And then I have an accountability buddy and I share that with her in a voice message every single day. And I've been doing that. I did it with one person for a year. We never missed a day, 365 days. And then once I finished with her, someone else found out about it. And she said, oh, if you're not going to continue it with her, I'd like to do it with you. So now we've been doing it since February 9th. And today is May 6th. And we've committed to a year. And so that's very helpful. And then she messages me the same things. And then we support each other. If I'm like, oh, I'm kind of feeling down on this thing today or something, or if she does, and we encourage each other. And then at the end of the day, I have a different accountability buddy. We've been working together since the beginning of, I think it's March 6th of 2024. So over a year. And we just text a bulleted text, like bullet points of wins of the day and goals for the next day. So that also keeps us accountable. And sometimes we might say, feeling like crap today, I don't know, whatever. And we help each other through stuff as well. So I do those things like clockwork every day, and we have not missed a night. Even if we travel, we still keep up on it because I feel consistency really is the key to attracting your goals faster.
What message or legacy do you hope to leave behind through your work?
Oh, that you can learn how to be your own cheerleader and really learn how to believe in yourself. That's what I would like to leave behind, was helping people to feel like lighter about themselves and about life, and really trusting themselves and trusting a higher power is there guiding them, so that even if they're alone, they feel supported.
You, a few times you told us about when you lead retreats. Can you maybe share what type of retreats do you lead, and who are these retreats for?
My first ever workshop, almost about 8 years ago, was called I Am Enough. And I still use that title in 4-hour group retreats that I do. I call it a half-day retreat. And usually I attract women to my programs. So it's helping them to feel more than enough. And that those half-day retreats are yoga. I make healthy food, so there's time for connection on a break. And then I do my 2-hour emotional clearing method program. Like I said in the beginning, that's a 5-step process I take people through. Clarity on where they're at, maybe working on one thing for themselves and helping to shift that perspective or reframe that story for themselves, and helping to give them the tapping tools and the meditative tools, the practical tools and the affirmations and the law of attraction, like really giving them all these tools so that they can practice it on their own. So that's a 4-hour retreat. And then this past last weekend, I did a 3-night and 4-day retreat where I broke up my 5 steps into 6 workshops. So we had an opening ceremony explaining what people would expect and what my program was about. Everybody introduced themselves, why they were there. And then Friday was a day of releasing. So we did all the EFT tapping and the optimal EFT. And I helped them to let go of thoughts and patterns that were holding them back from feeling more than enough. Even my retreat title, same. I Am Enough Spring Retreat is what it was called. And then in the afternoon, it was the same. We did some inner child work, some ancestral work, and whatever personalized work people needed help with. We did a fire ceremony. So I had people write down on a piece of paper what they wanted to release. And we did a prayer and a fire ceremony outside at the fire pit. And then they were guided through a meditation after that, like a yoga nidra meditation. And then Saturday was same kind of a schedule: yoga in the morning, breakfast, morning routine, morning session, with me, lunch, afternoon session with me, and then dinner. And the sessions for Saturday were all about how to be your own cheerleader, how to anchor into the things that you've accomplished and what you're proud of and what you like about yourself, so that you can use those things as leverage every time you're second guessing yourself. So that was like a lighter, more fun type of a day. Practical tools, like just like you asked me, what's my rituals and routines? Like we went over that and how to really continue to incorporate. Even though I have all this fear, I've gotten through many difficult things in my life, like what people can really anchor into on a daily basis to help keep rewiring these unhealthy patterns, right? Even though I have this fear, I don't have enough money or I'm going to lose out on money. Today I have money. Today I feel safe, right? And keep bringing them back into the present moment. So all of those rewiring tools are really important. And then we came up with affirmations for people. We did meditations on their future self. And we did a dance party. That was fun. I had a human design expert there who was also teaching yoga, and she was my assistant. So she did a workshop on human design, and she did mini sessions for people who were interested in that. And then Sunday morning was like a closing ceremony and how to answer any questions people had still from the whole retreat. So I hired a vegan chef and I had a massage therapist. So it was really a great experience. And I'm doing it again in October. I already have someone signed up for it, and my marketing is not even out for it yet, but I have some new exciting things to bring into the next retreat. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Do people have to live, I guess, near then? You have those retreats all in the Catskills. Do people have to live in the Catskill, New York area to go? Or could people fly out there? Or?
Yeah. Everyone was from New Jersey instead one person was from Washington, D.C., actually. So she took the train up and met with some friends and the group came together. So, I mean, for me, it's like a 3.5 hour drive. So it's totally accessible from like the people, my assistants and the massage therapists, they came from Connecticut. They drove all over. It doesn't matter.
But when you do your one-on-one session, you work remotely with people around the world. So anybody like watching this video could be in any country can still work with you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Meryl, if somebody was interested in working with you, what are the best ways to get in touch with you?
I would say you can direct message me on social media. I mean, everything is under my name, Meryl Hayton. I have a YouTube channel. You can watch my free videos on there. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I have even TikTok. I share some of my reels on TikTok. If you go to my website, merylhayton.com, and you subscribe to my newsletter, you will get a 7-day tapping into worthiness freebie series. And then you can also email me right through my website and contact me and just say, I'm interested in a free consultation, which I do offer. And yeah, happy to help people.
Fantastic. Do you have any final message you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up our podcast for today?
Final message. Every day, practice looking in the mirror and telling yourself something fantastic that you like or love about yourself. And practice being able to look in the mirror and say, I love you, like you're amazing. Because most of my clients cannot do that. So that's what I would say. Practice doing that.
I think I'll try that myself. Well, Mel, thank you again for so much for coming on here and sharing all about your experiences and all the knowledge and wisdom you gained. I mean, I think EFT really is a really powerful modality. So it's great that we're putting it out there to people so more people can be aware of it. And I know it makes us so many contributions, help so many people. So thank you for everything that you do. It's so wonderful that you're here to help so many people, and you have such amazing intuition. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like you're able to see like the numbers and stuff where people are at, where their emotional states. It's really amazing. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing everything with our audience today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.